The original reports surrounding Juancho Hernangomez's contract signing were wrong, and it turns out he signed a one-year deal with the Toronto Raptors that is fully guaranteed. So I'm going to break down in this video how that impacts all of the decisions the Raptors have to make this offseason when it comes to cutting down the roster. Additionally, we did see a move made over this weekend, and Malachi Flynn exploded at the Drew League, scoring more points than guys like LeBron, DeMar, and all these players. So lots of stuff to dive into. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors side, just breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And as I've been saying in recent videos, you guys have been killing it, hitting that sub button. We're almost at that huge milestone of 25,000 subscribers. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest Raptors news, you're enjoying the videos, definitely hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. But we got some interesting stuff to dive into. And the first thing we're discussing is Juancho Hernangomez. It turns out his contract was guaranteed. Now, obviously, a few days ago, we got the wild Woj bomb coming in, saying the Raptors signed Bo Cruz, the internet sensation of the BOA Challenge, obviously the star of the movie Hustle, and, pretty solid player in on the actual basketball court himself, right? I've joked he's the, as said in the movie, it's the offspring of Scottie Pippen and a wolf. It's the only way to describe him, but he is a solid player. I'm going to discuss the impact he could have on this team again, because some people are disagreeing with my takes in the past, but we got an interesting update on his contract situation, because with that Woj bomb, there wasn't much clarity, but then most Raptors reporters came out and essentially said that Juancho's contract was partially guaranteed, likely. However, Blake Murphy put that to rest today, saying that Hernangomez's deal with the Raptors is fully guaranteed, and he'll have a good leg up on camp competition. The Raptors will have some wiggle room to waive a guarantee, but the money is a good tiebreaker. So what does all this mean? What does this mean for the decision-making for the Toronto Raptors? Because obviously the deep bench stuff has been a topic of discussion in recent days, and this puts a solid wrench in terms of what the Raptors can really do, because when you look at the entire roster situation right now and you look at the guaranteed contract, so what guaranteed contract means is they're getting their money, right? They're getting paid regardless of if they're on the team or if they're not, right? They're going to get their cash. And obviously you have the core guys, and then at the deep end of the bench, which are guys that I think are sort of fighting for those roster spots, would be Svi Mykhailiuk, who struggled immensely last season, however, picked up his player option going into this year. And I still think Hernangomez is going to be a guy fighting for the position, even though he already secured his bag for this upcoming year. So that puts us, assuming Christian Koloko gets a fully guaranteed contract, and some people are speculating we might cut Harper Jr. and throw Koloko as a two-way, but I doubt that. I think the Raptors have a long-term vision for Koloko, and they want him as a fully guaranteed player, so it's easier to retain him in the future. So assuming Koloko is out a fully guaranteed contract, that means we have 14 players, 14 guys that are guaranteed going into next season. So what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? We have two guys on two ways. We'll ignore them for now. That's Harper and Jeff Doughton. But we have four players currently or three players currently on partially guaranteed deals. And that's Delano Banton, that's DJ Wilson, and that's Justin Champagnie. So currently, assuming all the fully guaranteed guys go into next season, there's only one roster spot left for those partially guaranteed players. So that means Delano Banton, who is a fan favorite from Rexdale, all that sort of stuff, showed a lot of potential last season. Justin Champagnie shocked a lot of Raptors fans with his hustle, with his rebounding as a guard last year, and DJ Wilson, who was a fan favorite of all the 10-day contracts we picked up last season. They're all fighting for one spot. So that's how this shifts things, because, as Blake Murphy sort of brought up, right, things are shifted now because Hernangomez's deal is guaranteed. So if we want to cut him, we have to pay him the $1 million. And do we really think Masai Ujiri's making short-sighted moves in the sense that he's given out guaranteed deals when he could have given partially guarantees just to throw away money in that sense when we're really brushing up on the luxury tax? No. That's why I'm making the speculation. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm not reporting it, but Bo Cruz will make the roster going into next season. That's my take. I don't think we would have given him this contract. Masai Ujiri wasn't sure. Unless he gets a serious injury or he stinks up training camp, I think Masai Ujiri is under the assumption Bo Cruz is coming back. Now, What does that mean? Are we going to cut Delano Banton? Are we going to cut Justin Champagnie? I think DJ Wilson is sort of the odd man out of those three guys. No, I don't think so. And I think we're going to take off the cap of the Fiji water and dump it out onto the ground. And I think we're going to take the cap hit and waive Svi Mykhailiuk so we can keep Justin Champagnie, keep Delano Banton on the roster going into next season. That's my prediction. That's my take. And as Blake Murphy brought up, that's what he's essentially saying, that we have wiggle room to waive a guarantee under the cap. So, the Raptors, you don't want to be in luxury tax, not because you're necessarily going to be paying a bunch of money and, all the money that Bell and Rogers are taking from us from our cell phone bills, right? They can't pay it off. No, you don't want to be above the cap, into the tax, because the tax itself isn't horrible, right? Unless you have a really cheap owner. However, the repeater tax, as we're seeing with the Golden State Warriors right now, is brutal when you want to retain players. So you don't want to waste years in the luxury tax when you're, when you don't have to, right? When you don't have a bunch of guys on max contracts, regardless if you're competing or not, you don't want to be in there, because when you do end up having to pay your guys, which we certainly will with Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet being free agents coming up, and Scotty Barnes, not too long off, will be on a max contract himself, right? When all those deals are coming up in the future, you don't want to waste years in the luxury tax. So we can waive Svi and keep Delano and Justin Champagnie, and I think that's the route it's going to go. And this is almost furthered by the other news we got over this weekend, and you might have picked up that one guy was missing from previous videos in terms of our non-guaranteed, our partially guaranteed players, and that's Armoni Brooks. Now, a lot of Raptors fans fell in love with Armoni Brooks because he does look really smooth out there, even if the percentages weren't that high. Right, and they were saying, right, he's a three-point stroker. That's what we need. We have a bunch of guys that can't really shoot. And I saw a bunch of debates going on about, why are we signing Juancho Hernangomez? And I made the comments in previous videos about how he's a solid defender, right? I looked at Utah Jazz comments essentially saying that he was a plus for them in the playoffs last year, a plus for them in the regular season when he got picked up. Obviously didn't have much of an impact for the Boston Celtics. I want to just establish that. Make the case over Juancho over like a guy like Armoni or something, because I don't know. If you look at the advanced stats for Juancho, I broke down his box scores in previous videos. I broke down with the eye test what fans of his previous team were saying they wanted to keep him, but this guy has a solid BPM last year, and BPM is block score plus minus, and he only played 17 games with the Jazz, so a small sample size. This is one of those advanced stats that scale pretty well if you don't have a huge sample size, and he's a guy that it's a 2.2 BPM, which is essentially, if you're at 0, you're league average. If you're above 2, right? If you're above 2 in terms of value, you're looking like a starter caliber player in terms of the sample that you've produced. And defensively is a 0.7, 1.5 on the offensive end. So obviously more valuable on the offense than he is on defense, but still having a positive impact above league average in terms of what he's able to provide out there. And given his length, given his size, given his mobility for a 6'9" guy, he's not OG Anunoby by any means. He's probably not the boa constrictor, right, clamping up everyone that we saw in Hustle, right? He might not be on that level, but he's certainly a guy that will be able to play in a Raptor system, won't be benched because of his defense for Nick Nurse, in my opinion. Now, we'll see what ends up happening, but the advanced stats, the BPM, defensive, offensive BPM are pretty solid, and he was a plus in terms of the VORP stat. So this value over replacement player, all positives in a small sample size with the Utah Jazz last season. So, that's fluctuated over the course of his career, but we want to look at the most recent times, because players develop, they get better, the confidence goes up when you become a movie star. So kind of a tangent from the Armoni Brooks segment in the title, but I just wanted to discuss why we ended up choosing him, bringing him into camp over on Armoni, because people like Armoni shooting, even though he wasn't a great shooter for us. But why did the Raptors do this? One, they might have another guy that they're interested in potentially picking up and signing in terms of a G League signing or whatever, right? And this is the report. This is coming from Josh Lewinberg, right? So we ended up waiving Armoni Brooks, let his contract goes up. So the other reason is essentially this opens up a spot on their training camp roster, which ends at an 19 once Koloko is signed. But so we can bring in a new player, and we also probably did Armoni Brooks a solid by saying, hey, you're not going to make this roster. We have an idea of the players we think are going to make it, as I've already discussed in this video. Go find yourself a team. So that's positive. And they might have another player that they want to have a look at, that they want to break down in training camp. And whether it's a guy we think could actually make the roster, might not, I've seen people discuss like Melo and like Boogie and random guys like that. I don't expect a player like that to be brought in for training camp. However, someone on the 905 like Jalen LeCue or something might be worth having them in to play a few preseason games to see how they work with the current roster. Even if they don't have a shot at making the team this year, if they're already in the system, you can see how they play, how they complement other NBA guys, and then maybe in future seasons you bring them along. So that's why we opened up that roster spot. That's why we didn't guarantee him. Shout out to Monty Brooks. He had some positive moments for the Raptors, but just couldn't put the shooting touch together he had in that one season with Houston. So that's the breakdown on that. Additionally, Malachi Flynn dropping a 50 bomb in the Drew League, and people were flaming the Malachi Flynn talk in the crossover Pro-Am game. They're saying, oh, Isaiah Thomas had 80 points, Peyton Pritchard had 90, right? There's all that sort of stuff, but you know, those scoring outbursts, they are reflective in Pro-Ams and the crossover and stuff. While the Drew League is a step above the crossover. It's not by any means, you know, NBA level competition or anything like that, but it's definitely better. And Malachi Flynn, his scoring outburst is the highest from any NBA player this offseason, according once this graphic was made. I think it was yesterday. I don't think there's any big nights recently, but in the Drew League, we got him at 52. The closest to him is Isaiah Thomas at 45, LeBron at 42, Nwaba at 40, DeMar DeRozan at 40, Montrezl Harrell got 36, Trae Young, scrub, only getting 22, right? I think Trae had a pretty big game. Him and John Collins and DeJounte Murray had a big game last night, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't been too in tune with all the G League stuff, but Malachi Flynn leading that list. Now, am I going to be coming out here saying he's better than LeBron James, better than Trae Young, better than DeMar DeRozan? Yes, I am, but you know, we don't want to pull too much from this, but it is a positive. It is like, by all means, we want him putting up big numbers in these Pro-Am games than not putting up big numbers in these Pro-Am games and struggling and all that sort of stuff. And the one thing that should be sort of taken away big time from these Pro-Am situations is because, you know, they're using proper three-point lines in these games, and Malachi Flynn is shooting very efficiently, and he's knocking down some tough three-point shots in these games. I believe he hit 8 in this one with his 50-piece, and that's the area that he really needs to become consistent and be strong at if he wants to really carve out a niche on this Raptors team coming in next season, especially with guys like Armani Brooks not coming back. And Nurse has said he's going to give him the opportunity. There's been some takes saying that he's, you know, he doesn't have enough sample size. If he made 9 more threes last season, his percentages would be similar to Fred VanVleet's, but you can't really say that because Fred VanVleet's volume is ridiculous. His the amount of pull-up threes Fred takes from deep is just another level, and the defense is central. Fred VanVleet's an all-star. He's one of our top options, right? The defensive schemes are scheming for Fred VanVleet, not necessarily Malachi Flynn. So, you know, when you compare those percentages, you have to take all that into account. But Flynn is a solid shooter, shot 33% from the three-point line last season. If you can get that up into the high 30s into the low 40s range, then we're looking at a legitimate, regardless if he doesn't prove anything else, because we know he can run the pick and roll. We know he can facilitate. We know he's a solid defender, and he looks like he's put on a little bit of muscle again this offseason. But if he can knock down those three-point shots at a high clip, then we're going to have a true strong backup point guard. And now with the likes of Doughton on his heels fighting for those positions, right? It's more motivation for Malachi Flynn. But glad to see him performing in the Drew League. And finally, want to celebrate the legend, the champ himself, Bill Russell, obviously the most winning player in NBA history. He ended up passing away, I believe age 88 yesterday, and just wanted to show some love because I think he's one of those legends that gets overlooked at times in those GOAT rankings, and you know, just because he didn't have the most crazy stats, even though he had 50 rebound games and all that sort of stuff, and there's not many highlights of him and all that, but obviously a legend, did a lot of stuff off the court. And even though obviously as Raptors fans we're not a fan of those Celtics teams and we don't like the current iteration of the Celtics, but he was a champ, man. He won, I think he's undefeated in closeout games or do or die games in his career, which is just absolutely wild. Right, one of the best defenders of all time, blocked a lot of shots, and just seemed like a cool dude, especially off the court, what he did for civil rights and all that sort of stuff. But also just in interviews, he's always playing with other legends and all that sort of stuff. It's cool stuff. And the last Bill Russell Finals MVP award that he ever gave out was to a Toronto Raptor and Kawhi Leonard. So cool story, and happy that people are celebrating this guy, looking back on his career, and he deserves all his flowers, deserves all the praise. So shout out to Bill Russell. Wanted to celebrate his career because he passed away peacefully yesterday. But that's big stuff in NBA news. Let me know what you guys think of all the Toronto Raptors stuff, all the roster situations, navigations there in the comment section below. As mentioned earlier in the video, we're on that road to 25,000 subscribers, so definitely hit that button if you liked the video today. And yeah, enough of me rambling. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.